Okay, well, it is what, Tuesday, and it's been a long week already here in Portugal. Today, we are going to be talking about the other advisors that we work with when we are an expat living in Portugal. Because as great as I think that I am just one of many resources that everybody has access to. And so I'm going to go through some of the do's and don'ts with regards to this subject, and then we'll jump into Q&A. So general disclosure, as always, none of what we are about to cover constitutes a direct any advice regarding taxes or investment matters. Those issues can be taken up in the context of a professional relationship. All the materials herein are to be considered educational in nature. In case you don't know me, I am from the San Francisco Bay Area, born and partly raised, and I've lived there for the past 20 years, right up until the pandemic when my family moved to Portugal. And my family outvoted me, and they said, Dad, we want to stay here. And so that is why I am currently co-located in Lisbon, Portugal, and San Francisco, California. I was in San Francisco all week last week, as a matter of fact. So today's agenda, we are going to do a quick introduction, just sort of for fun, ask the question of why do we need advisors at all in the age of ChatGPT and the internet. Then we're going to talk about the key players, the different kinds of professionals that I have found very useful in effectuating our new lives when we moved to Portugal. We'll talk about these people, accountants, immigration attorneys, and the like. Then we'll talk about Facebook communities, various other confirmation sources that I believe can be fairly useful if we know how to use them, and some comments on sort of things to bear in mind as you go about trying to find the right fit of advisor that you may ultimately want to work with. Tips for retention. I thought it's useful to think about. I mean, as we all know, relationships are a marathon, not a sprint. So we'll talk about what types of things to look at as you move forward. And then we'll talk about continuous learning, is what I ambiguously named the last subject. So our story begins with why. Why should I care? Why should I think about having an advisor? I thought about this many, many years ago because, I wonder why I do what I do sometimes. But the truth is that since the beginning of time, there have been countless, countless examples of great individuals. Um, you know, uh, it's a conflicted record on some of these. But there are important individuals in human existence who have sought the counsel of others and who have worked well on teams with others, not just in the age of antiquities, but to take it forward to the modern day. Of course, we have folks all over the planet that have some really great teams, some teams whose judgment we sometimes question and maybe don't always work as well together as we might like them to, but experts nonetheless, working together in a panel to accomplish great things. And why we do this in teams is because specialization and expertise are a thing. I've seen some folks in the lobby here that I've met before, and they're specialists. Of course, they don't want to have to take responsibility for the copious amounts of information that one might need at times to make good decisions. Hopefully, there is objectivity to the extent that that's humanly possible in your advisors. You get the efficiency and the time back in your life. Risk management is certainly a factor. I have a spouse who is in cybersecurity, and part of her job is helping her company to assess and to manage risk. So, do we retain the risk or do we put it to someone else? And only somebody with the expertise is oftentimes equipped to evaluate these things. Networking is useful because, if somebody does something bad, generally a network of people is going to be able to find that out and let us know. Peace of mind, long-term collaboration. These are important things which we gain when we have an effective team-based relationship. So let's get to the key players. So first of all, I think accountants come into I actually forgot about this, but just really quickly, worst picture I think that I've ever taken. But I took this at an event that was thrown. It was a financial event in which we had a whole panel of experts here in Portugal, I think last fall. And it was so much fun because all of us were working together. We had actually accountants, immigration attorneys. There are a few currency specialists here, and another financial advisor who lives in Italy. So first off, do you recognize this document? Hmm. If you do, you are way ahead of the game because I didn't see this until year 2. This is the Modelo Tres. This is the essentially the 1040 form that you fill out in Portugal when you file your taxes. But how does it work? Who do I talk to? That is why accountants are extremely helpful, and I think during the early days in Portugal, necessary to help you thread this needle. They help you to understand the Modelo Tres, the residency rules, the double tax treaty, interactions with your U.S. tax filing. Certainly, there is going to be a foreign earned income credit or the foreign earned income exemption that is going to become available to you. And then there are a whole range of other issues that you aren't even aware of, that you don't know yet, that a good accountant will be able to take you through. So my intent with this, with each of these different professional profiles is you could print this and you could take this with you and you sort of make sure that your tax person is conversant in these things, because there could be a language barrier. And so, of course, we're all doing our best to learn Portuguese, but you have to make sure that you feel comfortable. And that means that even if there's a language barrier, that there is communication that's effective, that you feel good with, that is happening. And so be sure that the advisor can speak your language, whatever that is. So moving on, there's attorneys. Immigration attorneys, I think, are going to become one of the first types of attorneys that you work with. Here I am with an immigration attorney that I have unfortunately had to work with because we have had some issues, my family in Portugal. But these guys have done a fantastic job in helping us to understand things like which visas are right for us. The first question I opened up with was questions about the golden visa. And they said, well, why would you want one? Well, let's talk about the different visas. I got an interesting question. I'll take them when I get them, actually. So there was a question about, would you need an immigration attorney even if you're already an EU citizen? And the answer is probably no. Probably no, because the residency process, the citizenship process, if you are already an EU citizen, is very streamlined. But there still could be a range of questions, right? So, if you need to know these things, and some of us don't, what is your Câmara Municipal, your Junta Freguesia? I mean, can you tell me what these things are? What should they mean to you and your family? Maybe you need some help understanding NHR, work authorizations, education, employment authorizations. These things can be incredibly important. And even things as simple as ongoing support. If you need to have some contracts devised for real estate, for hiring employees, etc. The rules regarding employment here are a world of difference from the rules that regard employment in the United States. And so I have personal experience with this. Spending a few €100 to have a lawyer help you draft a contract can save you tons of agony in the long term. Attorneys, moving right along. Real estate, right? So What do we know about real estate? We know it's location, location, location. So having somebody that can help you understand the relative values of whatever property that you might be looking for in whatever zone, district, bairro that you're looking for is incredibly important. I have some family right now that are looking for a vineyard near Porto. I had a client who was looking for a location for a geriatric hospital, right? Different kinds of realtors for different kinds of purposes. You want to have the right kind of realtor for the job. There's different ownership structures that can afford benefits or can set nasty traps for you for later. So you want to have somebody that can help walk you through these things. There isn't an MLS here. Oh, well, we got raised hands. Guys, I am very comfortable, obviously, doing these things, but I'm not that good at knowing how to work the bells and whistles. So if you have questions, here we go. A buyer's agents. Okay, that's a good question. We had a question about buyer's agents, and I thought that I might put that in here, but I did not. So I'll answer the question. And the answer is yes, there are certainly buyer's agents, and they are certainly worth the money because buyer's agents, you pay them a fee, at which point they become, what was that word we used before? Objective, which can be, easily compromised for realtors. So a buyer's agent will indeed represent you as you go about searching at various properties. And so, as I've said, that there's no MLS. Okay, so without the multiple listing service, you will definitely benefit from the guidance of somebody who understands the market and who might have access to deals that you don't see because, without a formal registry, there are so many properties which never actually hit the idealista market. So how do you know about them? And so having a good realtor can also mean access. And so I was talking with a great client earlier today, and he said that they're going to start looking for properties. And I didn't mention this. I should have said, make sure you get a buyer's agent because that could come in really handy as you go shopping. You don't want to have somebody who, I mean, we all have interests, but it's not great when somebody's trying to push your budget ever higher. Buyer's agents can be great. Let's talk about mortgages. This consideration is interesting. You can get the bank and you can get your brokers to represent you. And I prefer brokers because they can shop multiple banks, preferably brokers that have worked in the banks themselves at a prior time in their careers can be found. And I have had the most luck with these guys because they will consider your whole story and not just see, whether they can fit you into a product that they can take off of the bank's shelf. So there are mortgage brokers and there are, of course, offers from banks. And the amortization schedules here can be super different. Most of the amortization schedules are based on age. And so my understanding is that it is 70 minus your current age is the typical amortization schedule. So if you are 70, it's really hard. I'm sorry, but it's going to be a 5-year max mortgage with a big insurance policy. That's going to be the case. And then a question from another individual here. If you are renting, yes, real estate agents can be helpful there as well. I have used them for this. They will be charging your landlord, and so be prepared for your landlord to not want to negotiate with you on your rent because they are presumably already paying, of course, to have the real estate agent list and to rent out their properties. But it is a good way, once again, to get access to the market. Sometimes you can get a better rental deal when you use a realtor. This last one is another mortgage thing to point out. Prepayment penalties. Prepayment penalties, I think, have gone the way of the dodo in the United States decades ago, whereas your Portuguese mortgage broker will have to show you whether there is indeed a prepayment penalty. Because if you want to refi your mortgage, then you're going to get hit with a prepayment penalty. If you want to pay the mortgage off early, who doesn't want that? There could be a 5 to 10% prepayment penalty, in which case it becomes punitive to do the right thing. This is why the US markets have largely turned away from prepayment penalties. But that, indeed, it still exists here in Portugal. Currency specialists. Now, if you haven't moved yet, you could be forgiven for thinking that this is not a thing. I never thought of currency specialists. You wire funds, and it takes a day, and you pay a little bit of money. That's what we do in the US. Usually we use ACH. But as it turns out, it can be very valuable to have a currency specialist. And so I have a few of these folks on retainer. And the interesting thing here is they offer faster transfer times. Now, Wise and Revolut are super fast, but you can get the same transfer time with a currency specialist, and you can get other things, like you can get real customer support, somebody that you can literally talk to, which in this day and age, it seems to be becoming more a rarity. So you will have a person that can help assess the decision to move currencies, and they can do interesting things like do rate locks for you. So you can prepay for a forward contract on prices on cash. Interesting. So if you think that the market is going to move in one direction or another, you can put a prepayment down on the currency conversion and get today's price conversion locked in for a period of time. And that might be a really useful that might be a useful capability to have, especially on a day like today, where the rates are actually becoming more favorable and have been for a few weeks. Fast and secure, yes. Yeah, basically currency specialists, this was something that I didn't really even know about before I got into the cross-border planning business. Insurance, there is a universal payer system here. So insurance is different with regards to healthcare, not with regards to just about every other kind. Life insurance, property and casualty, they all exist. So that's great, and you will need them, which is also great. Life insurance, of course, you're going to need them if you have a mortgage. But of course, for the usual reasons that we do financial planning around, which is, are you leaving adequate funds behind in the event of an early passage? Long-term care is not really a thing here yet. And it's a long conversation that I have had with various insurance professionals. But what you basically have are cultural attitudes, mindset. It's different in Portugal. I don't think you really want to be in a nursing home at all. I mean, most of us, I think, would agree that it sounds hard in the U.S., but the Portuguese view on it is that no, never ever do you want to end up in the care of a nursing home. They're a much more sort of social person on average, and they tend to take care of their parents and for life. And so that can mean a pretty long life oftentimes. But it looks like the quality of life that the elderly enjoy here, at least in the cities, it looks quite good. Somebody's in the chat is pointing out, yes, that Expacity, who is a great resource that I'm going to talk about in a minute, they just had an event with one of our colleagues that I was actually thinking of when I was talking about this. They're called Serenity, and they do a lot of healthcare. They do a lot of assistance with long-term care. That's basically their bailiwick. Automotive insurance, it is completely the same. I mean, there's not much to say here. I guess the biggest difference is you get the little neon vest that you need to wear when you're doing roadside repairs. Just makes sense. Yeah, healthcare is the biggest difference, in which healthcare is inordinately cheaper, less expensive on every level and for all ages of individuals. And that is for a simple reason. It's all supported by the single payer universal system. So when you have a universal system in place, you have higher taxes because everybody's paying into a systematic process for providing healthcare. And there is, of course, a public system, which is essentially free. And as soon as you move to Portugal, you're going to be able to access it. And then there is private insurance, which is very cheap as well. And again, it's because the public option basically stands underneath of it, and you don't really need the private option, except that you can get much faster access to high quality healthcare. Bankers banking. Boy, has this one generated a lot of heat lately. So it can be difficult as an American to open up a bank account. It feels harder because you need to bring lots and lots of documentation with you on your initial visit. You will need to set an appointment, oftentimes, to establish a brand new bank account. And their hours are a little bit different in that they take a really long lunch break. I'm just chuckling because the first bank account that I set up took 3 visits to a bank branch, and I was appalled because the first 2 times I visited the branch during their 2-hour lunch window, and I thought, boy, oh boy, that's a very extended lunch break. But in all seriousness, set an appointment, bring all of your documentation with you, and be prepared not to receive your bank card immediately. Bank fees, there are bank fees on all of your bank accounts. And it's not great, but they're very minimal. And the reason that I think that that's fine, I'm willing to pay a very small banking fee, is their ATM system, which is called the Multibanco system, Nacional. No fees, very fast, and you can do payments not just in the stores with a little QR code reader that the application boots up, but you can send payments between each other as well very easily without the aid of an intermediary. I was at a beach one time and I had forgotten to bring any cash, but I wanted to wet my whistle, and some person that was standing nearby said, "Would you like some money?" And I said, yeah, no, I can't borrow money. But they said, I'm just going to send it to you from my bank account to your bank account. Everybody's on the same multi-banco system. That is very cool. And it says something about the kindness of just the everyman. Wow, that's nice. And so, as a bonus factoid, do a little bit of research if you can to understand the difference between SEPA payments and SWIFT payments. That is why oftentimes it feels so circuitous to get money from the United States into euros, is because you're coming from the SWIFT network over into the SEPA network. And sometimes there are some clients that become frustrated. Why does this take longer? Why are there fees, etc.? And it's because the single euro payments area follows a different protocol than the SWIFT area does. So we've got kind of a VHS versus Betamax for all of you Gen Xers out there situation. Somebody in the chat says, yes, you can even get healthcare from the Tasco. That is true. I didn't say that out loud, but everybody in sight is in the game. They'll want to provide you with your healthcare plan. So don't be surprised when you go to Mayo to get your cable TV set up, and they try to throw you a sweet once in a lifetime deal on some healthcare. You know, it's just different. Other financial advisors. So things to think about with regards to financial planning. Of course, this is sort of me talking about me. All of these things sort of need to sort of coalesce. They need to come together. Number one, you need to have various advisors because people have different specializations in nationalities and demographics. This is so true here. Portugal, and especially the metropolitan regions, are big melting pots. And so if you go searching for a financial advisor, you might find a financial advisor that seems wonderful, but they might actually specialize in working with British clients. And God bless them, they might not tell you right away because you both speak English, and why shouldn't they work with you? But there are different, there's obviously different unique challenges and opportunities that exist for people that come from different countries and have different financial systems. And so, really check out the specialization of the advisors that you end up working with. And multi-layered. This is something that I think I've come to appreciate even more over the years, is that no financial plan is an inert set of binary issues, right? So many issues sort of lean against one another. And so having a good sort of suite of advisors can ensure that you can ask different people the same questions and make sure that the answers flush. Hopefully you have a good advisor who can stand in the middle and can understand, at least at a high level, the issues that are going on among the different subsections of your financial life. And again, I show these folks down here because that is just a perfect representation of the types of people that I think do a good job with that. So what do we evaluate when we go out there? I should disclaim, that this is just one person's view, of course, and that we all have our own sort of standards, I think, for the delivery of professional services. But I do think that it's best, of course, to number one, look at just basic qualifications, requisite certifications, of course, and educational background are going to qualify the person to provide the service to you. But don't be fooled by the lack of designations. There was a period of time where I was confused that I didn't see any JDs or something that had some set of initials after it. There are some, but certainly there are less sort of super hyphenated series of designations that people earn in Portugal to impress you with. The JD is just an avogado, so you have to, of course, study and become a lawyer after years of work in the legal industry. You become an avogado. Track record. Some professionals can produce a client testimonial. It's hard for me because there's privacy concerns. I imagine it's the same for attorneys. But you can look at everybody online now. So if you take, for example, financial advisors in the United States, you can go and Google us on, what is it? There is a website called Broker Check, right? And so our public record is available to all. So you can search for my name, you can search for anybody's name. And this is the case with Portuguese accountants, doctors, lawyers, etc. Go and look at their LinkedIn. Everybody has one now. And you can see where they've worked and for how long. There is Trustpilot. There's other online resources. There's so many online resources. And so that is what we're going to talk about next, is some of the online resources that one can use. Compatibility and trustworthiness. I cannot tell you enough how important this can be, even from my side of the table. When I'm working with a client, do we have a good fit? Do we communicate well? It shouldn't be as big a deal as it is. Well, maybe it's just inherent in the human condition, but that person should appreciate what you're going through, right? I had an elderly attorney one time who was just constantly rolling his eyes at me, and I can appreciate that at times, but there should be some level of mutual understanding and respect and good communication as a throughput for the relationship, or nobody is going to trust anybody. Nobody's going to get anything done. So maintain that at all costs. Now, the online communities are, I think, the big deal for us as expats, and knowing how to navigate them effectively can be a game changer. And so I'm going to go through them one at a time. First, let's talk about the obvious one, which is Facebook. Here is actually my Facebook groups. And so my Facebook groups includes, of course, the infamous, maybe notorious Americans and Friends Portugal. And it's useful, I think, if you have the time to go through and sort of weed through the peanut gallery. You'll get some different perspectives, if nothing else. I was looking on today just to get a picture of what was going on, and somebody's asking, "What are you doing for life insurance?" Going with the bank, with the mortgage, etc. So again, if you have a tolerance for talking to strangers and getting some sort of off-color comments once in a while, it can be, if nothing else, it's useful just to kind of get your juices flowing. Here's another one that's specific. So you can get very specific to families moving to and from Portugal. Do we know if children need to get NIFs? Yeah, I would say that's you should do that. You won't find me on here because I don't have the time. Secondhand for families in Lisbon, I've donated a lot of clothes in the time that I've been here. This is my double top secret. group where my wife got into os mais de estrela, and so muitos segredos, like where to get the best empregada and how to find the best language acquisition coaches. They're going to be like the Portuguese actually really use Facebook very well. They use it the way that we use Nextdoor in San Francisco to share. Phineas, conhece algum bom explicador de português para moitano? Do you have somebody who can explain Portuguese to an 8-year-old? Empregada para todos os dias. Yeah, do you have an empregada who can help us every day? And so this is the sort of like in-group that you can find in your local neighborhood, likely, when you move to a neighborhood. I definitely don't talk on that one because they would probably kick me out. That's for the moms of Estrella. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many of these. I'm going to make this video available and just follow up with me if you want to know more about any of these resources. But everybody from LinkedIn, as I've mentioned, and Facebook to Expacity, as one of our attendees mentioned, NomadGate is another massive resource that produces guides for individuals moving here, and Trustpilot is always busy collecting feedback on professionals as well. Somebody said, American friends in Portugal. The experience is the files are terrific. Don't ask too many questions, you'll get kicked. I think that's true. They've a lot of these Facebook groups have assumed very aggressive policies because there's literally thousands and thousands of people in these rooms. So you can't ask too many questions. That's I'm glad that's not my job. These people volunteer to have these jobs, and so I appreciate that. So tips for retention. I'm going to go quickly through this section because you probably know the answers to these. How do you retain good help? Treat them well. Regular communication, mutual respect, showing appreciation for their expertise. It stokes all of our motivation, as well as constructive feedback when things aren't working. We're all big boys and girls. And so having open communication, I think, is always going to provide you with the best outcome. One thing to point out is that I have a number of American friends very irritated with individuals not answering their emails. So we'll just say this now. For the record, emails almost don't exist for some Portuguese service providers. If you're a Portuguese in my seminar now, I'm very sorry if I am wrong, but pick up the phone. That's all I do, and they always appreciate either a phone call or an in-person visit. So as much as the U.S. has shifted so much of our existence online, the Portuguese, God bless them, they seem to have sort of pushed pause on that movement for the moment, and I do appreciate. And then of course, it's the golden rule. So if you want to have a friend, be a friend. So definitely help your friends find good resources as well. I certainly do that as much as I can. And I am a fiduciary as a certified financial planner. So I don't get paid when I introduce people to other professionals. I just get brownie points, which, doesn't hurt either. Stay informed about changes. The landscape shifts all the time, doesn't it? So I think that the bill for Mais Habitação, more habitation, is going to go and get signed by Marcelo de Souza. I think this week. And so, that's a big change that's going to be affecting the market. Essentially, there's going to be rent control in some cities, and they are going to greatly limit the Golden Visa program. And that's a big change. So where could you hear about that? You could hear about that on some of your expat publications, but you could probably also hear that on one of my favorite websites. I like to go to Publico, and I also visit Sapu. But Publico is probably the most professional equivalent to, sort of the Wall Street Journal. It's more like the Washington Times for Portugal. There you go. It's signing me in. But that's a great way to both learn Portuguese as well as to, to essentially continue to upscale your understanding of what's going on out in the world. And you want to ensure your professionals are proactive in these things as well. So, staying on top of things yourself, and then asking great questions, of course, is always a great way to continue improving your skills. The case study I'm going to leave for anybody that wants to ask me for the materials later. What this page is essentially is just a sort of a classic example of something that happened to me on Friday, which is I have a new client in Cascais. She says, John, I've got all of these Portuguese professionals. Some are good. Some don't seem to want to get back to me. Can you please whip the team? Right. And so I did. I helped her to find a currency specialist, a banker. There is another financial advisor, oddly enough, that has tax expertise that has been collaborating with me to help this individual because she wants to develop a portfolio of real estate. None of this is the case study, which is here, which is quite a bit more generic. All of these professionals have a place in your life. And should you need them, I'm happy to make introductions, or you can use some of the great resources that I have just covered today. And that takes us to, well, the half-hour point. I talked a lot today, I'm sorry. But here is my last subject, actually. If you are in pre-move or acclimation, then working with a financial planner like me can be helpful. You can get your affairs in order before you come across the Atlantic Ocean. And integration and independence and retirement, these steps happen later on. And I do hope that you're on your way to achieving these things as well. So in conclusion, we have talked about, well, quite a lot today. We talked about the key players, at least financial players, that may be able to help you in your professional suite of advisors. We talked about how each of these individuals brings a different kind of expertise. And I covered some of the issues that you might encounter. Frankly, there's just too many to go through on a half an hour webinar as well. But collaboration amongst us all is, in the end, the most key issue. And so, without any further ado, this is what I've brought today. We are going to be doing another event in a month to be covering another topic. I write all of these materials myself, so I can't do them weekly. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to provide an answer. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on the chat over here for a few minutes before we get done here. When will the rent control start? Gosh, not soon enough. It's probably going to be signed into law this week, and at that time we will find out when it will begin. It'll likely be sort of phased in to allow landlords to ready themselves to get the hit. Yes, the case study will be made available to those of you that email me. Just ask me for it. I had somebody who asked me, I have a San Francisco partner. That is true. That doesn't really enter into what we're talking about today, but I will tell you it is because I need somebody that's awake 8 hours ago. And it is a partner of mine that I met. I met him, I think, 12 years ago, and have developed a level of trust in which we work well together and essentially sail on the same good ship lollipop together. It is good to work with a team of professionals because there's redundancy essentially with regards to the tasks that we can perform. I recently went on a vacation to Seattle for a week, and this individual received all of the emails that were sent from clients, so we could take care of requests that came in as they came in. Just thinking if there's any other sort of off the cuff things that I can think of with regards to the topic. This was a sort of a harder topic because it's not technical in nature. I like technical stuff because you can nail it down. But working with people is just lots of research and it's lots of networking, and it's being very honest about what it is that you hope to receive when you go to market. So I'm tempted to turn the music on, but I know that if we have a question, then I'll have to scramble and turn it off. All right. I do have an accountant that I can recommend, but you know what? I will do recommendations offline. I worry about the putting that out on the internet because I will post this to YouTube. I don't want anybody's feelings to get hurt if I forgot to mention them. I know lots of accountants, both American, Portuguese, Dutch, you name it. How do we know which advisor or advice is correct? Boy, okay, that's an important question. Thank you, Scott. That is so important. I had I went out for a cerveja for a beer last night with an accountant, and I put a thorny issue out in front of him, and I thought he agreed with me on the answer. And I said, there's a lot of people running around giving advice that the IRA is blah blah blah, and I'm not going to go into into the technical issue, but he said, well, I don't agree with you, John. And so we talked for about 20 minutes and ordered another beer and kept talking about, the theory behind it. And he is going to go back to hit the books because I threw him a few doozies, and he is a tax lawyer. So that's concerning, isn't it? Because he a very smart tax lawyer, someone that I have referred clients to, and is a great resource, has gone to court to defend people, but he didn't understand a rule that I think is a critical rule, or maybe I don't understand. Actually, what am I saying? Maybe I don't understand it, but I had been given to understand my answer because I had already worked over a bunch of other tax advisors, and so there is disagreement. Sorry, Scott. It is very clear that actually he said this as a sort of way to step away, and it is nice. He said, there's just been not enough time and not enough Americans flooding the system here for the Portuguese IRS to really have definitively answered some of these things. So when we prepare your taxes, if there are difficult tax returns, we're going to have to tell the IRS what our interpretation is, and they more or less accept it. Hopefully that helps. Yeah. So somebody pointed out an important point that I think that I made, but we're all humans, and so um, we want to we want to sound there. You want to sound convincing, but I, as I get older, I feel like a politician because I don't know the answer, or some of these answers are open to interpretation. God knows the tax system here, as Scott has pointed out, is sometimes maddeningly open to interpretation. So we will just do the work and we'll continue to look. All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. We have somebody leaving. That's always the sign that it's time to go. So, as always, a big beijinhos para todos, pessoal. I appreciate it. Please let me know via email or set up a one-on-one with me. If you're a client, just give me a call and we will work through it. Otherwise, take care. Ciao, ciao. Until next time.